Good afternoon and welcome one and all to my pub. It's a free house, so think of it as your home while you're here. And please, relax. Make new friends, wax lyrical with old ones, banter without constraint, and enjoy the homely ambience. I like to think the temperature is always set to perfect, so you're primed for your best experience. Should a blip occur on my convivial barometer, mark my words, it will be dealt with swiftly. House rules, keep it positive. That means no stealth snacking on porky scratchings. Pay for them first. No fighting and no unpleasantness, please. And most importantly, no gyp tolerated whatsoever towards my staff. If they tell you you've had enough, you've had enough. And if you choose to ignore that, you'll be leaving my house in handcuffs. After 20 years in the business, I've seen it all. Saints, sinners, miscreants, middle-aged rebels and teenage twin sets. All of human existence played out around these tables, on that stage where we have live bands, and over there at the bar. I could tell you stories, oh, what stories, of plans hatched, of romances kindled, of courage gained, of betrayals instigated, sanities lost and destinies changed. It's all up here, just waiting to be recorded.
I close my eyes and picture the emerald of the sea, from the fishing boats at Dingle to the shores of Dunedee. I miss the river Shannon and the folks at Skibbereen, the moorlands and the meadows with their 40 shades of green. But most of all, I miss a boy in Tipperary town. And most of all, I miss his lips as soft as either down. Again, I want to see and do the things we've done and seen, where the breeze is sweet as Shalimar and there's 40 shades of green.
Bridget, my sweetheart, where have you been?
Patrick, dearest, place you've not seen. Mountains, trees, and crystal clear lakes, definitely free from notorious snakes. Animals, people, roaming quite freely. Postmen on push bikes doing a wheelie.
Well, that sounds like chaos. I do despair.
Not a troll, it's called era. Continuous black stuff flowing rampant from tap. Perched over on bar stools, folks take a nap. Celtic melody fills the spot in one corner, while the other occupies the sorrowful mourner. Shamrock dense fields running amok amid white balls of fluff and their plentiful flock. 'Tis a sight to behold, and one to allure. Of that there's no question, to be sure.
To be sure.
Moore Street Market, stocked well, and complies with traders and prams of endless supplies. Apples and oranges, 5 for a pound, to satisfy hunger and stay above ground. As evening approaches, there's only one thing, to remember our glorious nature and sing. 40 shades, they say, of green, that's bliss. And hell can freeze over before they change this.
I'm liking the sound of this place, I know not. But I'm sure I've been there and now just forgot. I couldn't abandon this haven of wonder, transfixed in a gaze looking over yonder. We shall return without further ado, united once more in our homeland so true. Fortune has saved us, and it's given us our best, as I hold my dear Bridget and rekindle our nest.
I wish that I could spend an hour at Dublin's churching serve. I'd love to watch the farmers drain the bogs and spade the turf. to see again the thatching of the straw the women glean. I'd walk from Cork to Larne to see the 40 shades of green. But most of all, I miss a boy in Tipperary town. And most of all, I miss his lips, as soft as either down. Again, I want to see and do the things we've done and seen, where the breeze is sweet as Shalimar, and there's 40 shades of green.
You can't have two patron saints.
Why ever not?
But it's hard enough maintaining the one, but two.
You've had it your own way for centuries. It's about time you moved on, or at least shared the load.
Share the load? I only work the 1 day a year.
These days it's more like a week.
Oh, look, I've invested a lot in maintaining my position. The people in Ireland were a hard bunch to convert. I'd have been better off staying in Wales, or indeed trying my luck with the English.
The English? A heathen class of tribe for sure.
Indeed.
You're better off in Ireland. Unless we're banning the snakes, a touch of genius.
A grand gesture. It works all the time. I soon had the Irish eating out of my hand. I use the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. Works every time.
Oh, tell me about it. You were a good teacher.
And you, my dear, were a good student.
So, why the glass ceiling then?
What glass ceiling?
Us women don't get much of a look in.
Well, you make good nuns.
Handmaidens of the Lord.
What more do you want?
To be a patron saint of a country, that'd be a good start.
Don't be ridiculous.
Why ever not?
You're a woman for a start.
So, the Blessed Virgin was a woman.
Who ever heard of a woman being patron saint of a country?
Ireland has its own range of saints.
Oh, minor entities. I'm the main man.
You're not even from Ireland. At least I'm Irish, not some blow-in.
What's that got to do with anything?
Weren't you a slave from across the water?
Oh, well, maybe we could find you a small country somewhere.
What about that lot in the north?
Well, they are not a country.
Oh, they like to think they are.
And they are not very tolerant of woman patron saint. I don't know about that.
Still don't see why we can't have two patron saints for the same country.
A man and a woman, side by side.
Well, you've got Adam and Eve.
Yeah, look what happened to them. Besides, it's a question of your past.
First my gender, and now my past.
You were a pagan goddess.
No, the Christian church was happy enough to take over our pagan rituals. Look at Christmas and Easter.
The Christian church is nothing but pragmatic.
Well, let's be pragmatic when it comes to women. One day, women will rule the world.
I'll tell you what. Your birthday is at the start of February. We can call it St. Bridget's Day and celebrate the power of women. You can even have your own symbol, a cross made out of reeds and straw hats.
Oh, it's a bit cold and miserable in February.
Now, look, you must excuse me. I have to get down to the ale house. They're talking about turning Guinness green. There's even talk about turning rivers green. I may have to bring those snakes back.
I hate to tell you, the snakes have never left. They've become bankers and politicians.
Very funny.
What?
Hang on a minute.
Oh, what?
Well, where are we anyway?
We're in an ale house. Where else would we be?
Well, it's not an ale house I've ever been in.
You've been in a fair few, but then again, too few to mention.
At least I recognise those bottles of whiskey on the back shelf, but there's something odd.
What?
I can't quite put my finger on it. I know what it is. There's no smoke. Nobody's smoking. Not a pipe or a cheroot.
Oh, we better explore further.
There is much to discover.
I told you we should have turned left at the crossroads.
Just look over there.
Over where?
There are people walking around the place. They're all covered in shamrocks.
There's a spot in my heart which no calling may own. There's a depth in my soul never sounded or known. There's a place in my memory, my life that you fill. No other can take it, no one ever will. Sure, I love the dear silver that shines in your hair, and the brow that's all furrowed and wrinkled with care. I kiss the dear fingers so toil worn for me. Oh, God bless you and keep you, Mother Macree.
Hiya, let me tell you about myself. The name's Patrick. I was born more than 80 years ago now in Tipperary. Look good for my age, don't I? Spending so long in this country, I've lost my accent now as well. Back in Ireland, though, I had what can only be described as a very harsh Dickensian upbringing. I never knew my mother. She passed away when I was just a baby, and there was no mention of her ever again. When my father went away to fight in the war, myself and my 4 siblings were separated and shipped off to industrial schools all around the country, as our stepmother was unable or unwilling to look after us. I found myself incarcerated in the notorious Baltimore Fisheries Industrial School in County Cork for 10 long years, where cruelty, abuse and neglect were the order of the day. There were over 100 boys there, subject to severe physical punishment, constant hunger, wearing filthy clothes and sleeping on often urine-soaked mattresses in unheated, rat-infested dormitories. It was a very harsh environment for a young lad to be growing up in, I can tell you. In 1954, I finally got back to Tipperary, and after working in a hotel for a few years, my sister invited me to come over to London, so I settled for a while in York Way, just around the corner from where she lived on Camden Road. I found employment as a bus conductor and soon began dating my first English girlfriend. When I visited her parents one day, her father stated in no uncertain terms, "This will be the first and last time you ever set foot in this house." What a welcome. I experienced much Irish prejudice in those days, but I eventually found a girl whose family accepted me with open arms. We met in the Vine public house in Highgate Road and very soon began courting. We've been together now, man and wife, for over 60 years with a loving family to support us. As for my siblings, well, in spite of meeting my family again in later years, we never really bonded, to be honest, being as we were virtual strangers. We look at me now, though. Back in the day, I had a powerful tenor voice and could often be found in the pubs around Camden belting out all the old standards, including one of my particular favourites, Mother Macree. Well, that's enough about me. I can't sit here gassing all day. The wife will have my dinner ready, and if I don't get going, I'll be wearing my lunch, not eating it. Sláinte.
Every sorrow or care in the dear days gone by was made bright by the light of the smile in your eye, like a candle that sat in the window at night. Your fond love has cheered me and guided me right. Sure, I love the dear silver that shines in your hair, and the brow that's all furrowed and wrinkled with care. I kiss the dear fingers so toil worn for me. Oh, God bless you and keep you, Mother Macri.
Look, Paddy, do you love me?
What a question to ask a saint.
Except we're not real saints, or are we? We're just play acting for St. Patrick's Day.
Listen, as a sister of Christ, of course, I love you. Over the centuries, I come to love you more and more. How's that?
Enough to do anything for me?
Anything, my Bridge, as long as it isn't that.
No. Perish the thought, I'd never ask you that. What I'm asking is this, my Saint's Day. February's such a gloomy time. First day of spring, they say, but it's still dark and mostly bitterly cold. Everyone's skint still from Christmas and depressed with misery. I'm fed up with it. My birthday being on the 1st and all. Nobody gives me any attention. And when they do, it's half-hearted, not a patch on yours. Even the leprechauns get a better party than me.
Fortitude, Bridget, fortitude.
Pah! Easy for you to say when you get more and more popular by the year. Across the globe too. It isn't fair. They worship you in the aisle. They adore you in the States. You're even a hero in Japan. Well, what about me? Always hidden in your shadow. It's sexist. That's what it is. And I've had it.
Goodness me, what's come over you?
I can't take it anymore. I want my right to be adored in a way that I deserve. Centuries of piety and grace have muzzled the life out of me.
As your guardian and mentor, it is my responsibility to point out the true path. Shouting and demanding are not on that path. Indeed, they will lead you to iniquity.
Oh, take your iniquity. I need agency. I need respect.
Have you ever seen the like of it? The cheek of it?
What?
Well, call yourself a saint?
Well, I look better than you.
You're not even Irish.
Neither are you.
Well, at least I'm British and English to the core.
Do you think the real St. Patrick bother with passports? It is typical of you, English. You think you are the only ones who matter.
You know, putting that to one side, we can't have two St. Paddies in the same pub. It'll confuse people.
I think people are confused already.
Look, I'm going to keep an eye on you, my son. I can't have people impersonating me. I've got a reputation to uphold.
What reputation?
I'll contact Equity.
I bet you are not even in equity.
How do you know?
You can't act for a start.
I'll have you know, Equity is a very powerful union.
With 95% of its members out of work.
Look, just watch your step. That's all I'm saying. And as for being a saint, the real St. Bridget is going to recite some poetry now in Irish.
Anish Choctanari, be an lodol constine. Is Tereshna fel Bridget, Ardoig me Mihiol. A Hurme me Kaune, Nikanoik me Chiha, for Shasvi me Shies, Ilar Hunde Mayo. Now here comes the spring, the day will be lengthening, and after St. Bridget's Day I'll raise my sail. Since I put it into my head, I shall never stay put until I shall stand down in the centre of County Mayo.
Well, would you believe it? Doesn't seem possible, does it? I'll tell you, everything and anything can happen under my roof. It's like this is a portal to another world, and nobody's immune from it. Don't think you'll leave the same as you entered, because it's not true. Feeling warm, starting to feel a little bit sweaty, got a vague sensation of discomfort. There. No need to worry. That, my friends, is what is called change. Yes, it's subtle, hardly noticeable, really. But that little kernel has the potential to turn into something bigger, maybe even grow into something fruitful. It was just like that after my Eddie died. Lost I was for a couple of years, completely at sea, a rudderless dinghy. And then I overheard a conversation in my local. It got me thinking, and before I knew it, I had my own pub all by myself. It took a leap of faith. My sister said I was mad. My brother said it would end in financial ruin, that it would never work because I don't have a business brain. But I never stopped speaking to Eddie, and he let me know that it would be all right, and how right he was.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, you plastic paddy. Or should I say Patricia?
What do you mean? I might not have grown up in Ireland, but I consider myself truly Irish.
How can you be? You were born in South London.
So what? The place you were born in isn't important. It's the family and the culture you grew up in.
Okay then. What's especially Irish about your upbringing? You don't even have an Irish accent, do you?
Just because I don't go around saying to be sure, or top of the morning to you, you'll be asking me if I believe in leprechauns next.
I'm only teasing you.
Well, I think I had a fairly Irish upbringing for South London. My mother brought us up as if she was still living in West Cork. Catholic schools, mass on Sundays, Irish food, Irish dancing and music. Every March we were sent a box of shamrock from Granny, and every summer was spent in Bantry. As a child, it was a magical place, and it still is.
I agree. Ireland is very beautiful.
I remember the walks through the mountains looking for mushrooms, days spent on the strand swimming by the Long Rock or out in the bay with Uncle Johnny fishing for mackerel, Auntie Mary's cooking with carrot loaf and soda breads, and the wonderful fluffy potatoes. I also remember the beautiful skies, the swans by the fall, the garden full of bright jewel-like dahlias, and the smell of the sweet peas.
Why did your mother leave Ireland then?
Oh, the usual reason, lack of opportunities. She left, as her sisters did before her, to train as a nurse in London. Our house was always full of Irish nurses. It was a bit like Carry On Doctor, tales of bossy matrons, lecherous doctors, and lots of lurid talk of illnesses and surgical procedures. They always had a good laugh and kept positive despite the discrimination and anti-Irish racism. Nurses earned pin money, so any money was saved for the dances on Friday night at the Harp Club in New Cross, where she met my father. As my Auntie Ita said, the 50s were the most romantic time.
It sounds like the ballroom of romance.
It was for her. She was very beautiful with black hair and blue eyes. Men were always trying to break into the nursing home, as no male visitors were allowed then.
It must have been very frustrating being a man in those days.
Well, they had to do the wooing.
Talking about wooing, shall we repair to somewhere a bit quieter? And I promise I won't call you a plastic paddy ever again.
Talking about plastic paddies, St. Patrick himself wasn't born in Ireland. Neither were De Valera, James Larkin, Tom Clark or James Connolly. All Irish heroes. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
This pub we're in, I'm trying to figure out what all that stuff is in the corner and all those flashing lights.
Your guess is as good as mine.
We're setting up for a gig.
A gig?
We're playing tonight.
Playing what?
Music.
So why all this equipment?
Mics, amps. We need all that to perform.
So why can't you just sing?
We need the band.
Why can you not just sing your songs?
I need backup music.
Oh, have you never heard of sean-nós?
Sure who?
But traditional singing, just the voice, you know.
In this pub? You must be kidding.
Well, people will listen. What's the point in singing if nobody's going to listen?
Look, I need to get on. You're welcome to stay and catch the show. There'll be bottles flying and biddies crying.
Well, if that's your music, I'd rather go somewhere a bit quieter.
Suit yourself.
What do you make the like of that?
It's a new kind of music. They call it punk. It's just a bunch of lads jumping around shouting the odds to me. If you want to hear some decent music, come back tomorrow. We're having a session. If you have a voice on you, you can join in.
So what kind of music do you play?
Traditional, but bits of modern as well. Irish mainly, the Dubliners, the Pogues on occasion.
The Pogues?
Oh, it's from the Irish, Pogue Mahone. It means...
I know fine well what it means. Yeah, play some really old stuff, Oh Carolyn on the harp.
Sorry. Go back as far as Margaret Barry and the Pecker Dunn.
I suppose.
And of course, the Count.
Oh, John McCormack. I love the voice of him.
We'll fetch along tomorrow night. It's plenty for everyone. And as for poets, we have enough of them fellas to set the women's hearts a-fluttering.
What you really need is a Shanachie to liven up the proceedings.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And what about instruments? We like it lively, but not too loud.
Oh, the Ilian pipes, the bowron, the tin whistle. Oh, and the fiddle. Not to mention the harp itself.
Don't be forgetting your dancing shoes. Our feet are never still for long. You've got your man Flatfoot to thank for that.
Oh, gets better and better.
I must be heading off now. See you tomorrow.
Aren't you? Oh, look. That Sinead one, she's about to sing.
There's a dear little plant that grows in our isle. 'Twas St. Patrick himself, sure, that set it. And the sun on his labour with pleasure did smile, and with dew from his eye often wetted. It shines through the bog, through the brake, through the marland, and he called it the dear little shamrock of our land. The dear little shamrock, the sweet little shamrock, the dear little sweet little shamrock of our land. That dear little plant still grows in our land, fresh and fair as the daughters of Erin, whose smile can bewitch and whose eyes can command in each climate they ever appear in. For they shine through the bog, through the brake and the marland, just like their own dear little shamrock of our land. The dear little shamrock, the sweet little shamrock, the dear little sweet little shamrock of our land. That dear little plant that springs from our soil, when its three little leaves are extended, denotes from the stalk we together should toil, and ourselves by ourselves be befriended. And still through the bog, through the brake and the marland, from one root should branch like the shamrock of our land. The dear little shamrock, the sweet little shamrock, the dear little sweet little shamrock of our land.
Have you noticed something strange?
I've noticed much that is strange.
Everyone is wearing masks, and all those yellow lines and arrows. And it says social distancing. Do you think that's a code for something?
Well, look, there's a sign. It says COVID-19.
Why are all those people pointing that gun at us? And I just overheard someone saying, that this is the great reset. Jeff, what does that mean?
Immortality? Destiny? Time travel? Come on, Bridget. Let's try and find some normality.
Dúchas líng néamh páric, ospul mór na hÉireann, Anamíreagadh léigáil, solas mór an chéile. Dil le seoscáil gráúing dan an blianta I néamhan. Grá mór bhach na páirte, dúscail cachón deirehhuid. Sléifte glann an maia, spallir mór na hÉireann. Glan si iad go joúing, míle glór dar néamhiel. Mídars the fóric, guioring na gaile. Díling, lógas ihe, gus páric aspaléireann. Bring hope to us, St. Patrick, great apostle of Ireland. Illustrious, glorious name, he is the great light of the world. He returned to us with the gospel of love, despite years of enslavement. Great love of the Son, released from oppression. Hills, glens, plains, and big towns of Ireland. He cleaned them forever, 1,000 glories to his name, to our dear saint. We ask you, Patrick, pray for us Irish. God and St. Patrick of Ireland be with us day and night.
So, ladies and gents, it's nearly time. It's been great to be able to spend it together, and I hope you're going to return very soon. Now that we've been sharing time together in my house, I trust you'll be confident to call each and every one here a friend. Life is tough at the moment, and we all could do with anything that makes it easier to cope with. As my Eddie used to say, don't let the bastards fiddle with your gin, and if they do, crack them with a Carrickfergus special. Anything else is just superficial. Now then, Sean, did you enjoy your bacon and cabbage?
I did indeed. It brought me back to my childhood, and when the nearest I came to a half-decent meal was the time when I found a pig's head ditched on the ground by a stallholder in Moore Street Market. Couldn't believe my luck when the belly was hanging out of me with hunger.
Oh, what happened?
Well, I took my usual route home from school along the canal and across Halfpenny Bridge and into Moore Street. I observed the stallholders with their silver cross prams awaited eagerly for the guards to appear and chastise them. I was getting cold, and as I scurried along, a pig's head fell off one of the stalls and tumbled onto the pavement. I glanced around, checking to see if anybody had noticed, and much to my amazement, nobody had. So I casually walked over, undoing my heavy gabardine coat, and with one swoop, I picked up the pig's head and shoved it underneath. I ran all the way home with such excitement, I forgot to bless myself outside the Black Church in Mountjoy Street. I increased speed as I passed the tenement houses in Dominic Street, further up, and was relieved and exhausted when I finally reached home. Mammy stood in the kitchen, apron strings wrapped around her tiny waist. With a despairing face, she rubbed her hands together, wondering what on earth could be found in the larder to feed 11 of us for supper. It's a look that haunts me to this very day. Despite our poverty, she always encouraged us to appreciate and value ourselves. Never a day went by when she didn't question what I was reading and to keep wearing my spectacles. She glanced across at me in a confused manner.
You look flushed, sir. Is anything wrong?
No, Mammy. On my way home from school, I found this. I pulled out the pig's head with delight.
Where did you get that from?
I found it in Moore Street on the side of the road.
You mean you stole it?
No, Mammy, no, it was just lying there.
You do know it's a sin to steal. Anyhow, I applaud your initiative and enthusiasm in this instance. Here's a penny. Nip back down to the market and get a head of cabbage to accompany this banquet, and no more shall be said on the matter.
I knew from that moment on that I had the makings of becoming a genius.
Mum's name is Bridget and Dad's is Patrick. And being third born, one might call me a hat trick. It's not been easy for my life to unfold, with parents as saints in these streets paved with gold. I was a believer in all that I heard, never questioning once what they told me occurred. No dogs, no Irish, no blacks, Dad did say. And Mum chimed in, this is London, okay? I could feel a resistance in both of them deep, although neither of them were ever asleep. They were gifted in letting all fear go away. I took comfort in that, and even today. On this occasion, they've rehearsed verse and rhyme, a get-out clause at this difficult time. There's nowhere to run and nowhere to hide in a world of lockdown and our voice cast aside. And now my purpose developed somewhat to curtail what feels like a communist plot. I won't be a slave to their beck and call, sitting passively by. No, I stand tall. No singing, no dancing, no contact, they've said. With loved ones and elders, stay at home instead. Now, Dad, being a rebel through and through, is not fooled once by this ridiculous flu. Complete in full armour and all he can bear, hops straight on a bus to Trafalgar Square. A man of few words puts out his request that pubs must stay open at St. Patrick's behest. A muzzle will never enter my sphere. My senses are free to enjoy this beer. The crowds applaud with a smirk and a grin that someone has challenged these new laws brought in. Who would have thought? It's quite simple to be connected and strong, radiating with glee. Now, I've no idea how things might have turned out had my father masked up and chose to say nout. But one thing's for sure, as my mother would say, don't ever let bullies stand in your way. Be joyful, be proud to express who you are. Take delight in knowing you've come this far. A pandemic of love can now be released. Into the ethers with speed it's increased, flowing in every direction on earth, for man to inhale, transform and rebirth. With more of our richness and bountiful ways, create a new heaven right here at this phase. This place until now could not really exist until we join together, united and blissed. Mum lifts up her cup to show that it's full, and brimming with good, say yes, we can pull all that there is and all that will be. Our divine, loving nature, we are free, we are free.
Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera, Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera, Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera, Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera. Yo soy un hombre sincero, de donde crece la palma. Yo soy un hombre sincero, de donde crece la palma. Y antes de morir me quiero echar mis versos del alma. Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera, Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera. ¡Vamos! Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera, Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera. Mi verso es de un verde claro y de un jardín encendido. Mi verso es de un verde claro y de un carmín encendido. Mi verso es un verso herido que busca en monte su amparo. Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera, Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera, Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera, Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera. Yeah.
Now I've seen and heard everything. A fake St. Patrick singing a South American song.
Why not? Did the word of St. Patrick spread all around the world?
Now then, Bridget, what a day. I thought I'd driven all the snakes out of London as well as Ireland, but there were a few pesky serpents that were a bit harder to get rid of. I had to take them in hand. What would you like to drink?
I'll have a Jameson's, seeing as it's your day. We must celebrate.
Would you like anything in it?
Oh, I'll have another Jameson's.
Ah, very funny.
The old jokes are the best.
Now then, two Jamesons, large ones, please, over here.
Of course, coming right up.
Busy tonight?
It's St. Paddy's night.
What about St. Bridget?
Who?
St. Bridget, patron saint of Ireland.
It's hard enough coping with St. Patrick without having another one on board. Now, you must excuse me, my bar manager hasn't turned up. I have to give him a ring.
After you get the two Jamesons.
Hello?
Bill, where on earth are you?
I think I have the COVID.
Have you been to your GP?
No.
Well, then how do you know you have it?
I've seen the ads on the telly.
But I need you here.
It's not that busy.
How do you know?
Social distancing and all that.
Look, the government have made an exception for St. Patrick.
Really?
Yes, just get yourself to work. That is, if you want a job to return to.
I'm still trying to work out these London folk.
They call themselves London Irish, except they're neither London or Irish. And they were never that welcome when they first arrived here, you know. I mean, have you not seen the boarding house signs? No blacks, no Irish and no dogs.
What have the English got against black people?
Now you have me.
Well, I'm supposed to be helping with my father's business back in Ireland, selling sheepskins. Oh, in addition to all my healing and spiritual work.
That reminds me. I met your father the other day and he told me to tell you not to be giving all of his stock to the poor, or he'll be joining them soon enough.
Oh, he's such a worrier. What I give away, God replaces. I'm only doing his work.
I know, Bridget, you're such a saint.
Oh, if it's not the dairy cows not producing enough milk, oh, it's those literary fellas stressing over their poetry. I know Ireland's a land of saints and scholars, but we could do with a few more saints and fewer scholars.
Well, they only turn to us when they want something.
Isn't that the truth? Oh, especially that Yeats fella. The last time I spoke to him, I said, can't you just write about swans? Swans, they always do well.
Yeah, and what about that Oscar Wilde bloke?
Oh, don't be telling me about Oscar Wilde.
It's funny how we breed them in Ireland and then send them to England and beyond to make their fortune.
Isn't Ireland's biggest export is young people. Some even become presidents of the United States.
And that's a hard one to trump.
Oh, and as for people in need, I get no end of requests.
Some you can answer, some you can't.
Well, the Titanic was a bit embarrassing. Belfast people are a bit hard to reach.
Well, you're not kidding. I thought I worked hard when I was a slave looking after the sheep up on Slemish Mountain. But the flocks I have got now, they need constant attention.
Oh, especially the London Irish.
Yeah, as soon as my back's turned, they're back to their old ways, worshipping fertility goddesses, carrying out ceremonies at sacred wells, tying cluties around sacred trees.
Oh, it takes time, Patrick. Remember, my parents are pagans, and you baptized my mother. They've been worshipping natural deities for years and years, and it's hard, especially for the older generation, to learn new ways.
You're right, Bridget, as always.
Come on, people. Have you no homes to go to? I'm short-staffed tonight, so I can't be doing with your old nonsense. At least when we had lockdown, the place was quieter. Mind you, I had to drink all the beer myself rather than throw it away. So enough is enough. Say your goodbyes and depart. There's always next year, all the saints willing.
Bye.
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 Ciao. Sláinte.
Bye.
Arrivederci.
St. Patrick's Day.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.